Looking at Arkansas, been really impressed with, how they've come together as a team. You look at them defensively, start with Barry Odom, I think, has done a fantastic job. They've created a lot of different looks in the secondary. I've created a lot of turnovers. I believe they lead the country in interceptions, been very opportunistic there. Tons of 8-drop, rushing 3 guys and getting out and getting into coverage, mixing it up there. Offensively, they've played with a lot of speed on offense, snapping the ball a lot of times. As the seasons went, probably been more efficient offensively, creating some explosive plays. And then you look at them in special teams. You obviously can see guys that have ability as kickers, and they have return guys there. They've kind of bounced around and had a couple of guys, but it looks like they're settling in on who they have as return guys. For us in this open week, it was a great opportunity to go back to the basics, which we did. Just kind of going back through, the early days of install, trying to catch some guys up. And it was a good opportunity to do that and move some guys around to possibly create opportunities for guys that have worked hard in practice and, really to see and to give them an opportunity. With that, I'll take any questions.
Start with questions. We'll go to Austin Price, then David Under.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, with the down weekend or a little more time away from the complex for everybody, are you guys going to be good with any COVID results? And then, 2, you talk about moving some guys around. Anybody in particular you're talking about?
Yeah, well, with the COVID stuff, we get tested on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So the results are usually they should be coming in any time now. But we moved several guys around a little bit, especially in the secondary. Moved Keyshawn Lawrence to star and let him get some work there. Just to see what he looks like at that position. A guy that's continued to work hard in practice. The guys in front of him at corner, he hadn't got a lot of opportunity there during the games, but we thought he played well in the games that he's played in. He's done pretty well, so we looked at him at star just to get more production at that position. So he'll possibly get an opportunity on Saturday.
David.
Jeremy, who are some of the other younger guys that you wanted to learn about in the off week, and guys that you kind of had your eye on for larger opportunities as the season went on?
Well, D. Beck was a guy that, he didn't participate any during the summer. He done absolutely nothing, and then when fall camp gets here, he obviously is back into quarantine again. So then he turns his ankle. But he's a guy that we looked at a little bit at tight end, but we're starting to look at running back that has size and speed. T. Hodge is another guy that was injured during fall camp that's kind of getting his legs back under him a little bit, seeing a little more burst and speed out of him. So there's lots of guys. I could go through the whole roster, but we need more depth at running back. We've really played 3 guys for the year and have been very fortunate that those guys have stayed healthy. So we need to get those guys more of an opportunity. And another guy that was doing really well was Laneith Whitehead. He had been out because of his foot injury, but come back and was doing really well. But unfortunately, he hurt his shoulder last week in camp and probably going to do surgery on it in the next week to get him back in time for spring ball.
Go to Vince, then Gustavo.
Coach, I know you did a lot of basics last week with the open week, but how did you split up those reps at quarterback, and will that however you did it continue this week in preparation for the game? And then the second question is, how different, if at all, does Felipe Franks look like now at Arkansas versus what he looked like in Florida?
No, we rep 3 groups last week, so we went back and didn't have enough to do 4, but we did do 3 groups. So we split the quarterbacks amongst those 3 groups and got them a lot of reps there. Felipe to me is a guy I'm very familiar with. I started recruiting him when I coached at Florida State. He was in like the 8th or 9th grade. Very talented guy, multi-sport guy. Really a big man and a really good athlete. Has as strong an arm as anybody in our conference, and I thought he played well at Florida. 2 years in a row there, they won 10 games. I know he got hurt last year, but he's came back. You can tell that he's got experience and making a lot of plays for him.
Stop.
You had this open week, a chance probably to work more in the defensive lineman. What do you learn for your DL, your defensive lineman?
Well, we got to play lower. To me, every play we should be 4 to 6 inches lower than what we are. We don't have a lot of really large men. There's a couple of guys, but all of us need to play lower, play with more leverage. We need to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. We need to be able to convert from, a lot of times in college ball now, a lot of RPOs, a lot of play actions off the run fakes, being able to convert from run blocks to pass blocks. So had a lot of really good work this week and continue to see improvement there. So a lot of positives. We'll see how we do on Saturday.
Reese Walker, then Blake Topmeyer.
Coach, with the election day and affecting the schedule, how do you work your week now with that being a day off for folks in the SEC?
Well, for us, it was pretty easy because we were off last week. We just came in yesterday and done our Monday or Sunday practice, and today we'll do practice number 2 and take tomorrow off. So there's not a lot of shakeup with us.
Jeremy, you mentioned some guys moving around in the secondary and Key Lawrence. Are there some other guys you moved around there? And then question 2, what did you learn about Sam Pittman during your times working together at Georgia?
Well, I never worked with Sam. We just kind of missed each other. I've known him for a pretty good while. Had a ton of respect for him as an offensive line coach. Really, really good person. Now that he's been at Arkansas, we've talked on the phone a couple of times and really enjoyed it. Of course, him and Jim's relationship and familiarity with each other, and just a lot of people within Knoxville that have talked about him. Very likable guy. I think he's doing a really, really good job, and you can see it. His team's playing hard and playing together. I think he's doing a great job.
And then secondary, anybody moving around other than Keith?
Well, we just kind of moving some pieces. Bryson Eason's at outside linebacker. We took Pat Garland and moved him to inside linebacker to create a little more depth there at that position. That's a couple of guys there. Morvan Joseph is working inside and outside. So it's normally these things happen if you have during the summertime, during June and July, you can see these guys move around a little bit, and you get a little clearer picture of what position they should play, and then you get probably 14 really hard days of camp to kind of see it. Some of these guys didn't get to do it, so after going through the first 5 weeks of practice here, it's an opportunity for us to kind of put them in positions that we can see them for their future.
Brent Hubbs, then David Pascal.
Coach, 2 questions. One, what do you see out of Arkansas's running game that had their best night Saturday night against Texas A&M? And then 2, when you did a self-scout of yourselves, what's the key to getting the second half turned around, particularly the start coming out of the locker room? I think you guys have really struggled in the third quarter, particularly on offense.
If you look at Arkansas's run game, I thought last week they done a really nice job getting the ball on the perimeter. Some of that was some design quarterback read stuff. I think Kendall Briles has done a really nice job of mixing in the RPOs. really the wide receivers have really plus splits. So they've been able to get the ball out on the perimeter. It's not been as congested there. And, I feel like they block really well up front. They've used 2 tight ends, and whether it's counter schemes, running it same side or the other side, stretch schemes, inside zone, split zone, and then other night they probably got lots of yardage on Felipe just scrambling. He probably scrambled for 50 yards there. So really done a nice job up front. I think their wide receivers have blocked well on the perimeter. And if you look at us, first thing is don't turn the ball over. So all of us coaches, we have a thing where you look each week on turnovers, and you look across the league, or you look across, we usually do it across the league. What's everybody's record based off the turnover margin? So the 3 games that we're in the red in turnover margin, we've lost. The 2 games that we're in the positive area, we've won. And that's kind of that way all the way across the conference. So, number one, we can't turn the ball over, period. So, got to be able to take care of the football. How do you do that? You do it by being clean up front, from the offensive line to the tight ends to the running backs, wide receivers protecting the football. And then, to me, we've got to get turnovers. Had way too many dropped interceptions. Not causing enough fumbles. So, that's something that we focused on, something we always focus on, but for whatever reason, we've not been very opportunistic, and we've got to finish when we get our hands on the ball.
Jeremy, how different has this week been in terms of knowledge of opposing personnel? When you think about your first 5 games or opponents that y'all face annually, and I was thinking you probably have seen Arkansas, even when studying common opponents, as little as anybody, because you typically play Missouri before they do, you typically play Alabama. So just how different is it just from a knowledge of personnel compared to most weeks?
Well, it's the first time I've coached against Arkansas since the 16-17 seasons, and you can really see on their roster the difference in the talent level from 17 until now. The last couple of years they've done a really nice job recruiting some good young talented guys in there. I'm probably not as familiar with their roster in itself. There's several guys that's on their team that we recruited at one stop or the other, but didn't get them. So we know that they got some really talented players.
Ben McKean and Matthew Ray.
Yeah, Coach, last week you talked about improving fundamentals, getting back to the basics during the bye week. Do you feel like your team took a step forward fundamentally, and can you make that quick of a change fundamentally during that short amount of time?
Yeah, I think absolutely you can. We spent lots of times just in individual where we kind of go back and working on things that you do the first, second, third, fourth, fifth day at practice. We kind of have ABCs that we do every day. If it's some kind of block protection, some kind of tackling, some kind of turnover drill where you're handling the football, some kind of footwork. You have these things that you do on whether it's Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but there's nothing like going back and they're kind of cleanups as far as when you get to the season. But there's nothing like going back and spending, 30 minutes a day just on fundamentals, teaching progression conceptually so kids understand exactly what they're doing.
Matt Ray.
Hey, Coach, 2 things. One, working with the defensive line for a couple of weeks now. What have you been able to see from Amari Thomas and Dominic Bailey? And secondly, during this bye week with you guys wanting to get back to the basics and get back to where you want to be, did you see some guys maybe evolve into more of a leadership role on your team?
Well, I'll start with your first question there. Dom Bailey and Omari Thomas both have really good talent. Dom's not played much this year, or I don't think he's played any this year. he's still learning and growing, and there's a big difference when you walk in there and you're going to strike a guy in front of you that's 22 years old instead of 16 years old. So some of that comes with time. I think Dom's got lots of ability. When you look at Amari, he's played more and more each game. I think the longer he plays, he's going to continue to improve. He's one of these guys that has to learn to play lower, just from a leverage standpoint, and he's working hard to do that. And what was your other question?
Sorry, have you seen some more guys as you're trying to get back to the basics, get back to where you guys want to be, evolve into more of a leadership role during this open week?
Well, I felt like all along we've had good leadership. We've had good practices. We've had good energy. If we take care of the football and create more turnovers, we'll be a much better football team. Some of the circumstances that some of the guys have had is mainly younger guys. They couldn't control that, and I think our guys have worked really hard. I see the guys in the office all the time. So when I first got here, I'm everywhere I've coached, I'm used to players being in the office constantly, right? So, the first year we're having to drag them up here. Kids are up here all the time studying, trying to be the best player they can possibly be.
We will finish with Trey Wallace.
Jeremy, last week with the bye week, was that an opportunity to get Brian Maurer, Harrison Bailey, even JT Shroud some reps, maybe more than they would usually get during the regular season? And how do you split those up, especially going into a game week now?
Well, yeah, we went back to fall camp. So in fall camp, we usually work 4 groups all the time, and everybody gets the same amount of reps at every position. So it's why we believe that players develop, is because we spend that much time working on 4 groups. We split the staff up. We watch every bit of tape. This past week, we kept some guys out of practice to help them heal up a little bit, a few guys. So we only worked 3 groups, but we still went back to camp mode. We worked very little on future opponents. We worked more on ourselves and the fundamental parts of just, like I said, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of install, just trying to get back to the basics. So I think it was good for a lot of players in our program, and it's something that you can't do in a game week. You can do a little bit like every day. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we work on an opponent, but we always do good on good. So it's good on good 7-on-7, it's good on good team run, it's good on good team move the field. So we just for the competition standpoint, you need it. So you don't want to always be going against the scout team.